The text message glowed on Daniel's phone at 2:17 a.m. "I accept your offer." His heart stopped. What offer? From whom? Then he remembered his careless joke to his boss yesterday, words spoken in kindness without thought of consequence. Now, as dawn approached, Daniel realized some jokes change lives forever, including his own. Daniel Parker stared at his phone in the darkness of his bedroom, the blue light illuminating his confused expression. The message from his boss, Rebecca Chen, made no sense at first. Then the memory flooded back. Their conversation in the break room yesterday, his casual offer made in sympathy, never expecting she'd take it seriously. "I accept your offer," the message read. "If it's still available. I'm sorry for texting so late." Daniel sat up in bed, fully awake now. His 5-year-old daughter Sophia slept peacefully in the next room, unaware that their quiet life might be about to change dramatically. He typed back with trembling fingers, "Are you okay? Do you need me to call?" 3 dots appeared immediately. "No. Just need to know if you meant it." Daniel hesitated. Had he meant it? He barely remembered making the offer. It had been a throwaway comment, a moment of empathy when Rebecca had mentioned her landlord was selling her apartment building, giving tenants just 30 days to vacate. "My place isn't much," he'd said, gesturing to the coffee in the break room microwave, "but there's a spare room if you need somewhere to stay while you look." Sophia would probably love the company. Rebecca had smiled politely and thanked him, but he'd assumed it was just workplace courtesy. They weren't friends outside the office. She was his direct supervisor at the architectural firm, always professional, sometimes intimidating. In their 3 years working together, he'd never seen her vulnerable until yesterday, when she'd confided her housing crisis while waiting for her lunch to heat. Now, at 2:20 a.m., Daniel typed, "The offer stands. Are you safe tonight?" "Yes. I'll explain tomorrow." "Thank you." Daniel lay back down but sleep eluded him. His 3-bedroom house had stood half-empty since Claire left 2 years ago, taking only her personal belongings and leaving behind the ghost of their failed marriage. The spare room had become a storage space for boxes he never unpacked, memories he never sorted through. Maybe this arrangement could work. Rebecca needed a place to stay temporarily, and he and Sophia could use some life in that empty house. Still, she was his boss. There were complications, boundaries to consider. By morning, Daniel had convinced himself the text exchange had been a strange dream. He made Sophia's breakfast, packed her lunch, and dropped her at kindergarten with their usual high-five goodbye ritual. "Remember, Mrs. Rodriguez is picking you up today for your playdate with Miguel," he reminded her. "I know, Daddy," Sophia said with the exaggerated patience of a child who believes adults repeat things unnecessarily. "Can I bring Miguel to our house next time?" "We'll see," Daniel said, smoothing her dark curls. "Have a great day, sophomore." At the office, Daniel half expected Rebecca to act as though nothing had happened. Instead, she was waiting by his desk when he arrived, composed as always in her tailored blazer, but with shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite conceal. "Can we talk privately?" she asked, her voice steady but quieter than usual. In the small conference room, Rebecca sat across from him, hands folded on the table. For the first time, Daniel noticed how tired she looked beneath her professional exterior. "I apologize for the late message," she began. "I spent yesterday looking at apartments after work. The last one I viewed had already been rented by the time I arrived. The rental market is impossible right now." She paused. "I've been staying at a hotel since Monday. My savings won't last long at those rates." Daniel nodded, surprised by her candor. Rebecca had always maintained careful boundaries between her professional and personal life. "I understand if you were just being nice," she continued. "People say things they don't mean. But if your offer was genuine, I'd like to take you up on it. Temporarily, of course. I can pay rent, help with utilities, whatever's fair." Daniel considered his response carefully. The offer was genuine, he said finally. The room needs clearing out, but it's yours if you need it. Sophia and I have plenty of space. Relief flickered across Rebecca's face before her professional mask returned. Thank you. I wouldn't impose if I had other options. I promise I won't disrupt your routine with Sophia. She'll probably be thrilled, Daniel said honestly. She's been asking for a houseguest since she learned the word sleepover. They agreed Rebecca would come by that evening to see the space. As they left the conference room, Daniel felt a strange mixture of anxiety and anticipation. His impulsive offer had suddenly become very real. Throughout the day, Daniel found himself watching Rebecca during meetings, noticing things he'd overlooked before, how she always made sure everyone had a chance to speak, the way she defended her team's ideas to senior management, her habit of bringing coffee to morning meetings for everyone without taking credit. After work, Daniel rushed home to prepare the spare room, throwing open windows to air out the musty space and hastily relocating boxes to the garage. He changed the sheets on the bed that had sat unused for years and found a clean towel set in the linen closet. When the doorbell rang at 7, Sophia beat him to it, flinging the door open with characteristic enthusiasm. "Are you Daddy's friend?" she demanded, looking up at Rebecca with undisguised curiosity. Rebecca, standing awkwardly on the porch with a small suitcase, seemed momentarily at a loss. Gone was the confident executive, replaced by someone unsure of her welcome. "I'm Rebecca," she said finally, crouching down to Sophia's level. "I work with your dad." "I'm Sophia Parker and I'm 5 3/4, the child announced. "Are you staying for dinner?" "Daddy made spaghetti because it's Wednesday." Daniel appeared behind his daughter. "Sophia, let Ms. Chen come inside before the interrogation." "Rebecca, please," she corrected, stepping into the modest foyer. She looked different in jeans and a simple sweater, her dark hair loose around her shoulders instead of in its usual neat bun. The house tour was brief: living room with mismatched furniture, kitchen with crayon artwork magnetized to the refrigerator, bathroom they would share, and finally the spare room, hastily prepared but clean. "It's not much," Daniel apologized, suddenly seeing his home through her eyes: the worn carpet, the walls that needed repainting, the general air of a place maintained but not quite loved. "It's perfect," Rebecca said quietly. "Thank you." Over dinner, Daniel watched with amazement as his normally reserved boss answered Sophia's endless questions with patience and genuine interest. She told stories about growing up in San Francisco with her grandmother after her parents died, about studying architecture because she loved creating spaces where people felt safe, about her cat who had passed away last year. "Why don't you have another cat?" Sophia asked, twirling spaghetti around her fork with focused determination. "My apartment didn't allow pets," Rebecca explained. "And now I don't have an apartment at all." "You can live here forever," Sophia declared magnanimously. "We have lots of room and Daddy says it's too quiet sometimes." Daniel nearly choked on his water. "Sophia, Ms. Rebecca is just staying until she finds a new place." "But why?" Sophia persisted. "Don't you like her?" The adults exchanged glances, Rebecca's expression unreadable. "It's complicated, sweetheart," Daniel said finally. "Rebecca has her own life." "Grown-ups always say that when they don't want to answer," Sophia muttered, but let the subject drop in favor of describing her kindergarten art project in elaborate detail. After Sophia's bedtime, Daniel found Rebecca washing dishes despite his protests. "It's the least I can do," she insisted. "I'm not used to being in someone's debt." "It's not a debt," Daniel said, taking a dish towel to dry. "It's just helping out." They worked in silence for a moment before Rebecca spoke again. "Your daughter is wonderful." "She's the best thing in my life," Daniel agreed. "Has been since the day she was born. Even more so after Claire left." "Your ex-wife?" Rebecca asked cautiously. Daniel nodded. "She decided parenthood wasn't for her after all. Said she felt trapped." We share custody on paper, but in reality, Claire sees Sophia maybe once a month. Sometimes less. I'm sorry, Rebecca said, and Daniel could tell she meant it. Don't be. Sophia and I figured it out. We're a good team. He hesitated. What about you? You've never mentioned family. Rebecca's hands stilled in the soapy water. There's not much to tell. My parents died when I was 8. My grandmother raised me, but she passed away during my second year of college. No siblings. A few distant relatives I barely know. The simple facts, delivered without self-pity, hit Daniel harder than he expected. He'd always seen Rebecca as self-sufficient by choice, not necessity. That must have been lonely, he said quietly. She shrugged, resuming her washing. You get used to it. Build your own support systems. I have friends, colleagues. A small smile. And now, apparently, roommates. The next morning established their first awkward routine, sharing the bathroom, navigating breakfast, leaving for work in separate cars to avoid office gossip. Daniel found himself hyper-aware of Rebecca's presence in his home, the sound of her shower running, the scent of her coffee preference, the neat way she folded the throw blanket after using it. At work, they maintained their professional relationship, though Daniel noticed subtle changes. Rebecca seemed more relaxed in their one-on-one meetings, and he found himself speaking more freely, offering ideas he might have previously kept to himself. Days stretched into weeks. The temporary arrangement developed its own rhythm. Rebecca cooked dinner on Mondays and Thursdays, introducing Sophia to foods she'd never tried before. Daniel handled the other weeknights, his repertoire more limited but appreciated nonetheless. They shared weekend meal preparation, sometimes with Sophia's enthusiastic but messy assistance. 1 month in, Rebecca announced she'd found an apartment. It's available at the end of next month, she said over Friday night takeout. The location is good, close to work and reasonably priced. That's great, Daniel said automatically, though he felt an unexpected pang of disappointment. He glanced at Sophia, who had stopped eating her lo mein. But you just got here, his daughter protested. You can't leave already. I've been here 4 weeks, Sophia, Rebecca said gently. That's quite a while. But we like having you here, Sophia insisted, lower lip trembling. Don't we, Daddy? Daniel found both females looking at him expectantly. We do, he admitted. But Rebecca needs her own space. We always knew this was temporary. Later, after putting a still disappointed Sophia to bed, Daniel found Rebecca on the back porch, staring at the night sky. I'm sorry about Sophia, he said, joining her on the steps. She gets attached quickly. Don't apologize, Rebecca said. It's nice to be wanted. The simple statement hung in the air between them. Daniel realized with sudden clarity that in the past month, he'd come to see Rebecca not as his boss, not even as his houseguest, but as someone essential to their daily lives. You know, he said carefully, there's no rush for you to leave. The arrangement seems to be working. Rebecca turned to look at him, her expression guarded. Daniel, I'm still your supervisor. There are complications. I know, he acknowledged. But maybe those complications are worth navigating. For Sophia's sake, at least. Just for Sophia's sake? Rebecca asked quietly. Daniel met her gaze. No, he admitted. Not just for her. The next day, Rebecca went to view the apartment she'd mentioned. She returned subdued, sitting at the kitchen table while Sophia colored nearby. The apartment was nice, she told Daniel. Good layout, decent light. But, he prompted, hearing the hesitation in her voice. But it didn't feel right, she admitted. I kept comparing it to here. Our house isn't exactly a showplace, Daniel said with a self-deprecating smile. No, but it's a home, Rebecca said simply. I haven't had that in a long time. That night, after Sophia was asleep, they talked for hours on the living room couch, the television on but muted. Rebecca spoke about her ambitions at the firm, her fear of being seen as cold because she maintained professional boundaries. Daniel confessed his struggles balancing fatherhood and career, his worries about giving Sophia enough when he was only one person. "You're doing an amazing job with her," Rebecca assured him. "She's confident, kind, curious, everything a child should be." "She's better with you around," Daniel said honestly. "We both are." The moment stretched between them, full of possibility. Then Rebecca's phone chimed with a work email, breaking the spell. "I should get some sleep," she said, standing abruptly. "Early meeting tomorrow." Daniel nodded, not trusting himself to speak. He watched her retreat to the spare room, wondering if he'd said too much or not enough. The following weeks brought a subtle shift in their dynamic. Rebecca started joining their weekend outings, trips to the park, the children's museum, the farmer's market. Sophia bloomed under the additional attention, proudly introducing Rebecca to her friends and teachers as "my dad's friend who lives with us." At work, they maintained professionalism, though Daniel noticed colleagues exchanging glances when they arrived separately but within minutes of each other. Rebecca seemed unbothered by the speculation, her focus entirely on the major project they were pitching to a new client. The night before the presentation, Daniel found Rebecca at the dining table surrounded by blueprints and material samples, her laptop open to a half-finished PowerPoint. "Sophia's asking for you to read her bedtime story," he said. "Your dragon voices are apparently superior to mine." Rebecca smiled but didn't look up. "I need to finish this section. Tell her I'll come in to say goodnight in a few minutes." Daniel hesitated. "When was the last time you took a break?" "I'm fine," she insisted, rubbing her temples. "This project could mean a promotion. I can't afford mistakes." "You're not going to make mistakes," Daniel said, sitting across from her. "But you might if you don't rest. The presentation isn't until tomorrow afternoon." Rebecca finally looked at him, vulnerability breaking through her professional mask. "This matters, Daniel. If I get this promotion, I'll be the youngest female partner in the firm's history." "I know it matters," he said gently. "But so does balance. So does Sophia's story. So do you." Something in his tone made Rebecca pause. She studied his face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. 20 minutes, she conceded. "Then I really need to finish this." Daniel watched as she closed her laptop and headed toward Sophia's room. He heard his daughter's delighted greeting, followed by Rebecca's warm laugh. The sound filled the house, making it feel more complete than it had in years. 2 hours later, Daniel found Rebecca asleep on Sophia's bed, an open storybook on her lap, his daughter curled against her side. The sight squeezed his heart in a way he hadn't experienced since holding Sophia for the first time. Carefully, he lifted the book and pulled a blanket over them both, not wanting to disturb their peaceful sleep. As he turned to leave, Rebecca's eyes fluttered open. "I fell asleep," she murmured, disoriented. "The presentation." "We'll be fine," Daniel whispered. "Get some rest. I'll help you in the morning." She nodded drowsily, her hand finding Sophia's smaller one even in her half-asleep state. The protective gesture told Daniel everything he needed to know about Rebecca's feelings for his daughter. The next morning, they worked together at the dining table before dawn, refining the presentation while Sophia still slept. Their collaborative rhythm felt natural, each anticipating the other's thoughts, building